They asked to stay for 14 days. They brought a U-Haul. How my aunt and uncle stole my house. I have always been a solitary creature. As a 32-year-old freelance back-end developer, my environment is my livelihood. I need absolute silence, reliable fiber internet, and zero distractions to manage the server architectures for my clients. 2 years ago, I achieved my life's goal. I bought a 3-bedroom, mid-century modern house on the edge of town. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. I spent thousands soundproofing my office. I curated every piece of furniture. It was my fortress of solitude. Then came the phone call that breached the walls. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of a complex database migration when my phone buzzed. Caller ID, Aunt Linda. Linda is my mother's younger sister. In our family, she is known as the chaos generator. She is the type of person who creates emergencies out of thin air and then demands everyone else drop their lives to solve them. We hadn't spoken in 6 months, not since she tried to sell me into a pyramid scheme involving essential oils. I hesitated, but guilt, that useless ingrained reflex, made me swipe answer. OP, thank God you picked up. She was sobbing, not crying, sobbing, the hyperventilating kind. Linda, what happened? Is everyone okay? It's a disaster, she wailed. The upstairs bathroom pipes burst while we were at the store. We came home and, oh God, OP, the ceiling collapsed. There's black water everywhere. The mold, the smell. That sounds terrible, I said, genuinely feeling bad. Do you have insurance? Yes, but the insurance adjuster says the house is uninhabitable for the renovation period. They have to strip the drywall, treat the mold, everything. She paused for a dramatic effect. We have nowhere to go, OP. Hotels are so expensive, and you know Uncle Bob has been out of work since the dealership closed. We are on the street. I felt the trap closing, but I couldn't see the teeth yet. What about a motel? I suggested weakly. With Bob's back, she gasped. You know he needs a proper mattress. Look, OP, we just need a place to crash for the repairs. The contractor said it's a quick job, 2 weeks, 14 days max. We won't even be there during the day. We'll be out dealing with the house. You won't even know we exist. I looked around my pristine, silent living room. I looked at my white rug. Just 2 weeks? I asked. I swear on my mother's grave, Linda promised. Just until the drywall is up. Please, OP, family helps family. I sighed. Okay, 2 weeks, but I work from home, Linda. I need absolute quiet during the day. You are a saint. You are an angel. We will be quiet as mice. Saturday morning arrived. I was expecting their sedan, maybe 2 suitcases. You know, enough clothes for 14 days. I was sipping my coffee by the window when I saw it. A massive white Ford F-350 truck pulled into my driveway, towing a U-Haul cargo trailer. My stomach dropped. Uncle Bob was behind the wheel. He parked on my grass, not the driveway, the grass, and killed the engine. I walked out the front door, my coffee mug trembling slightly. Hey, Bob yelled, stepping out. He was a large man who wore his peaked cap backwards and always looked like he was sweating regardless of the temperature. Nice place. Little far from the highway, but nice. Linda hopped out the passenger side, holding a cage with, was that a parrot? Hi, sweetie, she beamed, bypassing me to hug me awkwardly. Linda, I stared at the trailer. What is all this? You said 2 weeks. Oh, well, you know, she waved her hand dismissively. Since the house is being fumigated, we couldn't leave our valuables there. The humidity, you know? We just brought the essentials. Bob opened the back of the trailer. It was packed floor to ceiling. I saw boxes labeled winter coats. It was July. I saw a stationary exercise bike. I saw a massive 65-inch TV. I saw boxes of kitchen appliances. Essentials? I asked, my voice rising an octave. You brought a treadmill? Bob needs his cardio, Linda said, already walking towards my front door. Now be a dear and help him unload. My back is acting up. For the next 3 hours, I was an unpaid mover in my own home. We filled the guest room, then we filled the hallway. Then the boxes started stacking up in the living room. Careful with that, Bob barked as I carried a box labeled Bob's Bowling Trophies. That's vintage. Why do you need bowling trophies for 2 weeks? I gritted out. Morale support, he grunted. By 2 p.m., my house looked like a storage unit. My minimalist aesthetic was murdered, buried under piles of floral print bedding and boxes of as-seen-on-TV gadgets. I was exhausted, sweaty, and angry, but the worst was yet to come. I walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water. Linda and Bob were standing in the hallway whispering. They stopped when they saw me. "OP," Linda started, putting on her concerned mother face, "we have a small problem." "What?" "Well," Linda smiled sweetly, "the guest room mattress. It's a bit soft." "It's a memory foam mattress. I paid $1,000 for it. It's brand new." "Exactly," Bob chimed in, rubbing his lower back. "Too soft. My sciatica acts up if I don't have firm support. I laid down 10 minutes and I can already feel the spasms coming. I won't be able to walk tomorrow." I stared at them. "Okay, so what do you want me to do?" "Well," Linda smiled sweetly, "we took a peek in your room. Your mattress looks firm, orthodox." Silence stretched out for 10 seconds. "You want my room?" I asked, disbelief coloring my voice. "My master bedroom?" "Just for the nights," Linda added quickly. "You're young, OP. Your bones are rubber. You can sleep on the guest bed. Or the sectional. That sectional looks comfy. It's only for 2 weeks, right? Surely you wouldn't want your poor Uncle Bob to be in agony while you sleep in luxury." I looked at Bob. He let out a theatrical groan and clutched his spine. I was cornered. If I said no, I was the monster hurting an invalid. If I said yes, I was crossing a sacred boundary. I was weak, I admit it. I wasn't ready for the confrontation. "Fine," I snapped, "but don't touch my things, don't touch the closet." "We wouldn't dream of it," Linda squealed. By 8 p.m., I was exiled. My master bedroom door was closed. I could hear them moving things around inside. My things. I was lying on the living room couch, because the guest room was now full of their boxes, trying to read a book on my tablet. Suddenly, the sound of an explosion shook the walls. I jumped up. It was the TV. Their massive TV, which they had set up in my living room because yours is too small for Bob's eyes. They were watching an action movie. The volume was set to a level that could wake the dead. "Bob! Linda!" I shouted, walking into the living room. Bob was sprawled on his recliner. Yes, they brought a recliner, eating Cheetos. Orange dust was already settling on my white rug. Linda was in the kitchen, frying something that smelled like burnt garlic and old grease. "Linda," I gasped, rushing over, "use a board. You'll scratch the sealant." "Oh, relax," she waved a knife at me. "It's stone. Stone is hard. You worry too much. Here, have a meatball. You look too skinny." I retreated to my office. It was the only room with a lock. I sat in my ergonomic chair, staring at the soundproof foam on the walls. Through the door, I could still hear the muffled bass of the explosion from the movie and Bob's raucous laughter. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda, from the other room. Text: "Sweetie, what is the Wi-Fi password? Bob needs to download his updates." I looked at the calendar on my desk. Day 1 of 14. I didn't know it then, but 14 days was a lie. They weren't guests. They were an invasive species, and I had just let them establish a colony in my master bedroom. I curled up on the office floor with a spare blanket, listening to the parrot squawk in the hallway. 2 weeks, I whispered to myself. 2 weeks. I can survive 2 weeks. I was so wrong. Day 15 arrived. The deadline. The day of liberation. I woke up early, feeling a flutter of hope in my chest. I walked into the kitchen, expecting to see boxes packed. Instead, I saw Linda in my bathrobe, my silk monogrammed bathrobe, making a smoothie using my $600 Vitamix blender. "Good morning, sunshine," she yelled over the roar of the blades. "Morning," I said, eyeing the robe. "So, Linda, it's the 15th. Did the contractor finish the drywall? Are we moving you back today?" She turned off the blender and poured a sludge-colored liquid into a glass. "Oh, honey, didn't Bob tell you?" she sighed, wiping a mustache of green foam from her lip. "Bad news. The contractor found asbestos." My blood ran cold. Asbestos? Everywhere, behind the walls and the ceiling. It's a hazmat situation now. The whole house is sealed off. They said the abatement crew can't even start for another 3 weeks. I gripped the counter. 3 weeks? Linda, that puts us into next month. I have deadlines. We are devastated too, she cried, clutching her chest. But what can we do? We can't breathe poison. Surely you wouldn't kick your family out to breathe cancer dust. The trap had snapped shut. I knew deep down that asbestos was probably a lie, or at least a gross exaggeration, but I couldn't prove it without driving over there, and I was buried in work. 3 more weeks, I said through gritted teeth, but we need to set some ground rules. I have lost 2 clients this week because of the noise. We'll be quiet as ghosts, she promised. They were not ghosts. They were poltergeists. By day 25, the dynamic had shifted completely. They weren't guests anymore. They were the masters of the house, and I was the annoying roommate who paid the bills. The first casualty was my workspace. I work with servers. When a server crashes, I have to fix it now, or my clients lose thousands of dollars a minute. It was a Tuesday at 11 a.m. I was on a critical Zoom call with the CTO of a fintech startup. I was wearing my noise-canceling headphones, trying to focus on the code. Suddenly, my office door, which I had locked, rattled. Then the lock clicked. Uncle Bob used a coin to twist the emergency release. He burst in, wearing nothing but a pair of stained boxers and a tank top. "Hey, OP," he bellowed, oblivious to the camera. "The Wi-Fi's acting up again. Netflix is buffering." On my screen, the CTO's eyes went wide. He saw a half-naked man scratching his belly in the background. I stammered, frantically hitting the mute video button. "Bob, get out. I am working," I screamed, ripping off my headset. "Don't yell at me," he grunted, walking over to my router setup. "I'm just trying to fix the internet. You got all these fancy flashing lights, but I can't even watch Yellowstone." He reached for the main switch of my server rack. "No!" I lunged across the room and slapped his hand away. "Touch that switch and you crash a bank's payment system. Get out." He left, muttering about me being high-strung. I turned back to my computer. The CTO had disconnected. Later, I received an email. "We think we need a consultant with a more professional environment. We are terminating the contract." That contract was worth $4,000 a month. When I confronted Bob about it, he shrugged. "Maybe you shouldn't have cheap internet then." The second casualty was my sanity. The third was the steak incident. I'm a foodie. It's my one vice. I don't buy fancy cars, but I buy quality ingredients. For months, I had been dry aging 2 A5 Wagyu ribeye steaks in a special fridge. They were my prize. I was saving them for my birthday, which was this coming Friday. Total value, roughly $300. I came home from a rare trip to the gym Thursday evening. The house smelled weird, like burnt ketchup and old grease. I walked into the kitchen. Bob and Linda were sitting at the dining table. They were eating steak. My heart stopped. I ran to the fridge. The dry aging bag was empty. I looked at their plates. My beautiful marbled A5 Wagyu steaks were gray. They were cooked well done, actually beyond well done. They were shoe leather, and they were smothered, drowning in Heinz ketchup. I stood there trembling. I couldn't breathe. You ate the Wagyu?" Bob chewed loudly, struggling with the tough meat. "This meat was spoiled, kid. We did you a favor." "Spoiled?" I choked out. "Yeah, it was all dark and hard on the outside," Linda chimed in. "I had to cut all that rot off, and it was so fatty. Who buys meat with that much white fat? I had to cook it in the microwave for 10 minutes to melt it all out." The room spun. "You microwaved A5 Wagyu? And it's still tough," Bob complained, pointing his fork at me. "Next time, buy some chuck roast or burgers. This fancy stuff is a ripoff." I exploded. That wasn't rot, that was the dry-aged pellicle. Those steaks cost $300 and you microwaved them? I grabbed the plate from Bob. Hey, I was eating that. Get out, I roared. Get out of my kitchen. You steal my room, you cost me my job, and now you eat my food? You are parasites. Linda stood up, slamming her hands on the table. How dare you, she shrieked. Over a piece of meat? We are your family. We changed your diapers. We are homeless, living out of suitcases, stressed out of our minds about asbestos, and you're yelling at us over a steak? You selfish, entitled little brat. I'm not selfish, I yelled back. I have hosted you for a month. I sleep on a couch that smells like Bob's feet. I pay for the electricity you waste leaving the AC on at 60 degrees with the windows open. Bob has hot flashes, Linda defended. He needs fresh air. I want you out, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Asbestos or not, Sunday. You are leaving this Sunday. I don't care if you sleep in the truck. Linda narrowed her eyes. The tears stopped instantly. Her face went cold. We're not going anywhere on Sunday, OP, she said quietly. Bob's back is in spasms again, and legally, well, never mind. We'll leave when the house is ready. Don't be a monster. She took the plate back from my hand, sat down, and continued cutting the leather-like meat. Now go to your office. Bob and I want to watch a movie, and your negative energy is ruining our digestion. I retreated. I was defeated. But something she said stuck in my head. Legally, never mind. What did that mean? That night, I couldn't sleep. The living room was occupied by Bob snoring on the recliner. The guest room was a warehouse. My bedroom was forbidden territory. I slept in the bathtub with a pillow. The next morning, while they were asleep, they slept until noon, I decided to do something I should have done weeks ago. I drove to their house. I needed to see this asbestos renovation with my own eyes. I needed to see the contractor. I needed proof. I pulled up to their street. It was a nice suburban neighborhood. I drove slowly towards their address. I looked for the construction dumpster. I looked for the hazmat vans. I looked for the scaffolding. There was nothing. The house looked pristine. The lawn was mowed, but there was one new addition to the front yard, a wooden signpost, and hanging from it was a sign that made my stomach drop through the floorboard of my car. Sold. It wasn't a for sale sign, it was a sold sign, and judging by the emptiness of the driveway, it had been sold a while ago. There was no burst pipe, there was no mold, there was no asbestos. They hadn't come for 2 weeks. They had moved in, permanently. I sat in my car staring at the sign, realizing the magnitude of the betrayal. I wasn't a host, I was a lifeboat, and they had just drilled a hole in the bottom of my ship. The drive back from their old house was a blur of red rage. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. They didn't have a burst pipe. They didn't have mold. They didn't have a contractor. They had a closing date. They had sold their home, pocketed the cash, and moved into mine with the intention of never leaving. I was their retirement plan. I pulled into my driveway. The U-Haul trailer was still there, like a tick dug into the skin of my property. I didn't park gracefully. I slammed the brakes. I marched to the front door. It was locked. My front door was locked. I fumbled for my keys. I shoved the key in, turned it, and it didn't turn. It was jammed. Or rather, the deadbolt was engaged from the inside. I rang the doorbell. Once, twice, 10 times. Finally, the door opened a crack. The chain was on. Uncle Bob peered out, chewing on a toothpick. "Easy with the bell, kid," he grunted. "We were napping. What's the fire?" "Open the door, Bob," I said, my voice terrifyingly calm. "Did you bring the groceries? Linda needs milk." "Open the door." He saw something in my eyes, maybe the realization that I was about to kick the door down, and undid the chain. I stormed past him. Linda was on the couch, watching a talk show. feet propped up on my coffee table. "You're back early," she chirped. "Did you fix your attitude?" I stood in the center of the room and cut the power to the TV by yanking the cord out of the wall. "Hey," Bob yelled. "Shut up," I screamed. The volume of my own voice startled me. "Sit down, both of you." Linda looked at Bob, then at me. She sat up slowly, clutching her pearls. "What is this about, OP?" "I went to your house today." The color drained from Linda's face instantly. It was like watching a curtain fall. Bob stopped chewing his toothpick. "I saw the sign, Linda. Sold. The driveway is empty. There is no dumpster. There is no renovation." I took a step closer. "You sold your house. You lied to me about the burst pipe. You lied to me about the 2 weeks. You are homeless, aren't you?" Linda looked down at her hands. For a second, I thought she would apologize. I thought she would cry and beg for forgiveness. Instead, she let out a long, annoyed sigh. "Well," she said, looking up with defiance, "it took you long enough to figure it out." "Excuse me? We had to sell, okay?" Bob barked, crossing his arms. "Gambling debts, bad investments. The bank was going to foreclose. We sold it to pay off the sharks. We have nothing left. Are you happy now? You want to shame us for being poor?" "I want to shame you for lying," I yelled. "You manipulated me. You invaded my home under false pretenses." "We were scared," she cried, switching tactics to victim mode. "We didn't know where to go. Your family. You have this big empty house just for one person. It's selfish. We thought if we stayed for a bit, you would see how nice it is to have family around." "A bit?" I laughed bitterly. "You moved everything you own into my house. You planned this. You planned to stay here forever." "We have nowhere else to go," she screamed back. "We have $0, OP. If you kick us out, we die on the street. Is that what you want? To kill your mother's sister?" I took a deep breath. "I don't care anymore. You have abused my hospitality. You cost me my job. You ate my food. You lied to me to my face. I want you out, now. Get your stuff, get in the truck, and leave. You have 1 hour before I call the police." Linda's face changed again. The victim vanished. The predator appeared. She leaned back on the couch and crossed her legs. A smug, cold smile played on her lips. "Go ahead," she said softly. "Call them." "What?" "Call the police, OP. See what happens." I didn't hesitate. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency?" "I have intruders in my home, relatives who refuse to leave. I want them removed." 20 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. 2 officers walked to the door. I met them on the porch. "Officers, thank God," I said. "These people, my aunt and uncle, came for a visit and are refusing to leave. They don't live here. I want them trespassed." The older officer, Officer Miller, nodded. "Okay, let's talk to them." We walked inside. Linda and Bob were sitting calmly at the kitchen table. They looked like the picture of innocence. "Ma'am, sir," Officer Miller said, "the homeowner wants you to leave. Do you reside here?" "We live here, officer," Linda said sweetly. "We moved in on July 1st. It's been, what, Bob, 35 days?" 35 days, Bob confirmed. "They're guests," I interrupted. "They were supposed to stay for 2 weeks." "Do you have a lease?" asked Linda the officer. "No written lease," Linda said. "It was a verbal agreement. We agreed to look after the house and pay for groceries in exchange for rent. See?" She pulled out a folder she had clearly prepared. "Here is a receipt for groceries we bought last week. Here is the receipt for the U-Haul moving our furniture in on July 1st. And then she played her ace. And here," she slid a piece of paper across the table, "is a letter from the Social Security Administration addressed to Robert Smith at this address." My jaw dropped. How did you get mail here?" "We forwarded our mail the day we moved in, sweetie, to make sure we didn't miss important bills." She smirked at me. Officer Miller looked at the mail. He looked at the date. He looked at me with a tired expression I will never forget. "Sir," said Officer Miller to me, "I can't make them leave." What? I felt like I was losing my mind. It's my house. My name is on the deed. I pay the mortgage." "I understand that," the officer said. "But in this state, if someone has established residency, usually by staying more than 30 days or receiving mail, they are considered tenants, even without a lease, even if they don't pay rent. They're squatters," I yelled. "Technically, they're tenants at will," the officer corrected. "This is a civil matter, not a criminal one. We cannot evict a tenant without a court order. If you want them out, you have to go to the courthouse, file for eviction, and wait for a judge to sign it." "How long does that take?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Currently, with the backlog," the officer shrugged, 3 to 6 months, maybe more if they contest it. I looked at Linda. She was beaming. She knew the law. She knew the law better than I did. She had timed the 2 weeks specifically to push past the 30-day residency mark. "And one more thing, sir," Officer Miller added, his tone becoming stern. "You cannot change the locks. You cannot cut the power. You cannot throw their belongings out. That is called a self-help eviction, and it is illegal. If you do that, you will be the one going to jail, and they can sue you for damages." "So I'm a prisoner in my own home?" I whispered. "I'm sorry, sir. It's the law. Good luck." The officers left. I stood in the hallway stunned. The silence was heavy. Bob opened a bag of chips. Pop! The sound echoed like a gunshot. "Well," Linda said, standing up and walking past me to the fridge. "By the way, we're out of milk. Since you're going out to cool off, be a dear and pick some up. Whole milk, 2% gives Bob gas." I looked at her. I looked at the woman I used to call Aunt. Something inside me snapped. Not a loud snap, a quiet, terrifying fracture. The part of me that was a polite, law-abiding nephew died in that hallway. The part of me that solved complex system failures for a living woke up. "You're right, Linda," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "It is a civil matter, and since I can't kick you out, I guess we are going to be roommates for a long time." I walked to the thermostat on the wall. It was set to 72 degrees. I turned the dial. I turned the heat off. Then I walked to the breaker box in the laundry room. "What are you doing?" Bob asked, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "The officer said I can't cut your power," I said, flipping the switch for the living room outlets. "The TV died, the lamp died, but I need to do some electrical maintenance on my house, indefinitely." They thought they had won because they knew the law, but they forgot one thing. They were trapped in a house with a system engineer who had access to the infrastructure, 0 patience left, and a sudden interest in psychological warfare. The day after the police visit, the atmosphere in the house shifted from awkward tension to active war zone. Linda and Bob were smug. They had the law on their side. They knew I couldn't drag them out physically without going to jail. They walked around with their chests puffed out, treating me like a landlord they hated but couldn't be evicted by. But they forgot who I was. I am a back-end engineer. My job is to find vulnerabilities in systems and exploit them, or patch them. The legal system had a bug. I couldn't evict them, but there was no law saying I had to make their stay comfortable. There was no law saying the house had to be a 5-star hotel. Phase 1. Infrastructure decay. The first thing I did was address the bathroom situation. Linda loved long, luxurious baths. She would spend 2 hours in my soaking tub using my expensive bath salts. On Tuesday morning, while they were both asleep, it was 11 a.m., I grabbed my toolbox. I walked to the main bathroom, the one they were using. I popped the hinge pins on the door. I lifted the door off the frame and carried it to the garage. Then I did the same for the guest bathroom. When Linda woke up and shuffled down the hall to pee, a scream echoed through the house. "OP, where are the doors?" I walked out of my office holding a sanding block. "Oh, good morning," I said calmly. I noticed the finish on the doors was chipping. I decided to refinish them. It's a long process. Sanding, staining, sealing might take a few weeks, since I have all this free time now that I lost my contracts. I can't use the toilet without a door," she shrieked. "Bob is right there in the living room." "I guess you'll have to announce your business then," I shrugged. "Or go to the gas station down the street." Phase 2, the digital blackout. Bob lived for the internet. He streamed conspiracy theories on YouTube 24/7. I logged into my router's admin panel. I didn't cut the internet off. That might be illegal. Instead, I created a guest network specifically for their devices. I throttled the bandwidth to 56 kilobytes per second, dial-up speed. Then I set a parental control filter that blocked streaming sites, gambling sites, and, just for fun, Fox News. By 2 p.m., Bob was banging on my office door. "The internet is broken. It's not loading anything." "Really?" I yelled back. "Works fine for me. Must be your old devices. Maybe they aren't compatible with my network anymore." "Fix it." "Sorry, I'm busy sanding doors." For 3 days, it was hell. They screamed, they threatened to sue me, with what money. They deliberately left trash on the floor. Linda started cooking cabbage soup every day just to stink up the house. Bob started walking around in his underwear just to make me uncomfortable. It was a standoff. Who would break first? I thought I had the upper hand. I was younger, smarter, and I controlled the environment. But I underestimated their level of entitlement. I underestimated how little respect they had for me. The incident. Friday came. I had to go into the city for a rare in-person meeting with a potential new client. I needed this job desperately to pay the mortgage, since I was now supporting 2 parasites. "Don't touch anything," I warned them as I left. "I'll be back at 6. Yeah, whatever," Bob grunted from the couch, staring at a frozen loading screen on his phone. The meeting went late. Traffic was a nightmare. I pulled into my driveway at 8:30 p.m. My heart stopped. There were 4 cars in my driveway, cars I didn't recognize. I heard music, loud, thumping bass, my sound system. They were having a party in my house, while I was at work trying to pay for the roof over their heads. I stormed to the front door. It was unlocked. I walked in and the smell hit me instantly. Cheap beer, cigarette smoke, inside my non-smoking house, and sweat. There were about 10 people in my living room, strangers, rough-looking people, probably Bob's old drinking buddies. Someone was ashing a cigarette on my hardwood floor. Someone else had spilled red wine on the white rug. Again. "What is going on?" I roared. The music stopped. Everyone looked at me. Linda emerged from the kitchen, holding a box of wine. She looked drunk. "Oh, look who's home, the party pooper," she slurred. "We were just having a little housewarming. Since we live here now, we invited some friends." "Get out," I said, my voice shaking. "Everyone out, now." "Relax, kid," one of Bob's friends laughed. He was a big guy, sitting on my dining table. "Have a beer." I pushed past him to find Bob. I found him in my office, my locked office. He had kicked in the door. The jamb was splintered. He was sitting in my ergonomic chair, spinning around, laughing with another guy. And then I saw it. On my desk, I kept a small wooden box. It was an urn. It contained the ashes of Buster, my golden retriever who died 3 years ago. Buster was the only family I had for a long time. That dog saved me from depression. The box was on its side. The lid was off. A pile of gray ash was spilled across my mechanical keyboard and onto the floor. Bob was holding a beer bottle, and there was a wet, foamy puddle right in the middle of the ash. He had spilled beer into my dog's ashes. I froze. The world went silent. I couldn't hear the music. I couldn't hear Linda yelling in the hallway. I just stared at the gray sludge on my desk. Bob looked up and saw me. "Whoops," he grinned, his eyes glassy. "Sorry, OP. Thought it was an ashtray. Weird dust you got there." "It's Buster." "Who?" "My dog." "Oh, well, he's dead, ain't he? Grab a paper towel. No harm done. No harm done. Something inside my brain disconnected. The red rage I felt earlier, it vanished. It was replaced by something much colder. Something absolute. I didn't scream. I didn't punch him, though I wanted to kill him. I walked over to the desk. I gently scooped up what was left of the dry ash into the box. I ignored the beer-soaked sludge. I turned around and walked out of the office. "Hey, where are you going?" Bob yelled after me. "Don't be a crybaby." I walked into the living room. "Party's over," I said. I didn't yell. I spoke with the authority of a man who has nothing left to lose. I pulled out my phone and held it up. "I am live streaming to the cloud." I lied, or maybe I wasn't. "I am calling the police again, this time for breaking and entering into my locked office and destruction of property. Anyone who is not Bob or Linda when the cops arrive is getting charged as an accomplice." The guests, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, or maybe realizing I looked like a serial killer on the verge of snapping, started to scramble. "I'm out," one guy said. "Yeah, let's go." Within 2 minutes, the house was empty except for the parasites. Linda stood there, swaying. "You embarrassed us! These are our friends!" "Bob kicked in my office door," I said quietly, "and he desecrated Buster's remains." "Oh, stop being dramatic," Linda rolled her eyes. "It was an accident. We'll buy you a new vacuum cleaner." I looked at her. I looked at the cigarette burns on the floor. I looked at the wine stains. I looked at the splintered doorframe. I realized then that harassment wasn't enough. Removing doors wasn't enough. Throttling Wi-Fi wasn't enough. They were cockroaches. And you don't ask cockroaches to leave politely. You don't annoy cockroaches, you fumigate them. "You win, Linda," I said. She blinked, surprised. "What?" "You win," I repeated. "I can't live like this. You want the house? You got it. I'm leaving." A slow, greedy smile spread across her face. You're leaving?" "Yes. I'll go stay at a hotel. I need to clear my head. You two enjoy the house tonight." "Oh, OP, that is so mature of you. See, I knew you would come around. Don't worry, we will take care of everything." "I know you will," I said. I went to my room. I packed my laptop, my documents, and my valuables into a backpack. I grabbed the urn. I walked to the front door. "See you later, OP," Bob yelled from the couch, already cracking another beer. "Bring pizza next time." I stepped out into the cool night air. I wasn't going to a hotel to sleep. I was going to execute the nuclear option. I had a friend named Crazy Dave. Dave wasn't actually crazy, but he was a biker who bred Neapolitan Mastiffs, huge, drooling 150-pound dogs that looked like gargoyles. And Dave owed me a favor, a big one. I pulled out my phone and dialed Dave. "Hey man, remember when I wiped your hard drive of those legal complications?" "Yeah?" Dave's gravelly voice answered. "I need to cash in the favor and bring the dogs, all 4 of them. When?" "Tonight. I'm moving out, and you're moving in." I spent that night at a Motel 6. It was cheap, the sheets were scratchy, and the AC unit rattled like a chainsaw. It was the best sleep I had in a month. Why? Because I knew what was coming at dawn. At 5:30 a.m., I met Dave in the motel parking lot. Dave is a legend in the local diving bar scene. He is 6'4", weighs about 280 pounds, and is covered in tattoos from his knuckles to his neck. He looks like he eats barbed wire for breakfast. But the scariest thing about Dave isn't his appearance, it's his children. Dave opened the back of his reinforced van. The smell hit us instantly, a musk of wet fur and raw meat. "Meet the boys," Dave grinned, lighting a cigar. Out jumped 4 Neapolitan Mastiffs. If you've never seen a Neapolitan Mastiff, imagine a hippopotamus crossed with a gargoyle with extra skin folds that drool slime constantly. "That's Tiny, Brutus, Hannibal, and Princess," Dave pointed. Princess was the biggest one. She looked at me and let out a low rumble that vibrated in my chest. "They hungry?" I asked. "Always," Dave said. "And they haven't had their morning walk. They're cranky." "Perfect." I handed Dave a set of keys. "You know the address, you know the deal." "Rent-free living for me and the dogs for a week?" Dave chuckled. "And all the beer in the fridge? You got it, boss. Just one question. What are the rules regarding the existing tenants?" "Don't touch them," I said coldly. "Do not physically harm them. I don't want an assault charge. But anything else? Psychological warfare? Being gross? Being loud? Being present? Everything is fair game. Make them wish they were in prison." 6:15 a.m. The invasion. I drove separately and parked down the street to watch the fireworks, metaphorically. Dave pulled his van into the driveway right behind Bob's truck, blocking him in. Dave unlocked the front door. He unleashed the hounds. I wasn't inside, but I can reconstruct the scene based on Dave's text updates and the screaming I heard from the sidewalk. Bob was sleeping on the living room recliner. Imagine waking up not to an alarm clock, but to the sensation of warm, sticky slime dripping onto your face. Bob opened his eyes and saw Hannibal, 140 pounds of wrinkly muscle, staring down at him, drooling directly onto his forehead. Bob screamed, a high-pitched, terrifying scream that woke Linda in the guest room, where she had moved after I removed the master bedroom door. "What is going on?" Linda rushed into the hallway. She was met by Dave. Dave was wearing dirty leather chaps, a vest with patches that said things I can't repeat here, and nothing else. He was scratching his hairy belly, holding a carton of milk, Linda's milk. "Mornin', sweetheart," Dave belched. "We out of cereal?" The confrontation. I walked in 5 minutes later, acting casual. The scene was chaotic. Bob was backed into a corner, holding a sofa cushion as a shield against Princess, who was sniffing his crotch aggressively. Linda was purple with rage, pointing a shaking finger at Dave. "OP!" she shrieked when she saw me. "Who is this? Who is this animal? Call the police!" "Oh, this?" I gestured to Dave. "This is Dave. He's my guest." "Guest?" Bob yelled. "Get him out! He has vicious beasts in here!" "Actually," I smiled, channeling the same cold energy Linda gave me during the police visit. "Since I live here, I am allowed to have guests, just like you invited your friends over for the party last night." "But he's terrifying," Linda cried. "He's a tenant at will," I corrected, "just like you. He's staying for a while, maybe a month, maybe a year. Dave is going through some stuff, and family, or friends, help each other, right?" "I am not living with a biker and 4 monsters," Linda stomped her foot. "Then leave," I said simply. "I have rights." "So does Dave," I shrugged. "Dave, make yourself at home." "Thanks, brother," Dave said. He walked over to the couch, Linda's favorite spot, and sat down heavily. The springs groaned. He put his heavy, muddy boots up on the coffee table. "Princess, up!" He patted the couch beside him. The massive dog leapt up, landing on Linda's neatly folded blanket, and immediately began licking its paws. The siege, day 1. The dynamic in the house changed instantly. Bob and Linda tried to retreat to their rooms, but I had removed the doors, remember? Dave was omnipresent. He played heavy metal music, loud. But not just any metal, he played Norwegian death metal that sounded like demons gargling gravel. "Turn it down," Bob yelled. "Can't hear ya," Dave yelled back, cracking open a beer. "My ears are shot from the concerts." Then came the smell. Mastiffs have a distinct odor. It's a mix of yeast, wet dog, and swamp water. Within 4 hours, the house smelled like a kennel. Linda tried to cook lunch, some pasta. Brutus and Tiny walked into the kitchen. They didn't attack her, they just existed. They stood directly behind her, breathing heavily. When she turned around with a plate of pasta, Brutus barked, a sound like a shotgun blast. Linda dropped the plate. The dogs ate the pasta off the floor in seconds, glass shards and all. Okay, not the glass, they were smart dogs, but they licked the sauce clean. "My lunch!" Linda cried. "They like Italian," Dave commented from the living room. The siege, day 2. The bathroom situation became critical. Remember, there were no doors. Dave had no shame. Bob walked past the bathroom and saw Dave utilizing the facilities. "Jesus Christ," Bob yelled, covering his eyes. "Close your eyes, princess," Dave laughed, "or put the door back on." Bob couldn't put the door back on because I had locked them in the garage. That night was the breaking point for their sleep. Mastiffs snore loud. It sounds like a chainsaw fighting a lawnmower. Dave slept on the living room floor with the dogs, a cuddle puddle, he called it. The noise reverberated through the whole house. Bob and Linda, huddled in the guest room, which had no door so the sound traveled freely, couldn't sleep a wink. Every time Bob tried to go to the kitchen for a midnight snack, Hannibal would lift his head and growl, a low, menacing rumble that said, "This is my kitchen now." Bob went back to bed hungry. The siege, day 3, the party. This was the coup de grace. I told Dave to invite his friends. Saturday night, 6 motorcycles pulled into my driveway. 6 big, bearded, leather-clad guys walked into my house. They brought kegs, they brought cigars. The living room became a biker bar. Smoke filled the air. I hated it, but it was a necessary sacrifice. They were playing poker, swearing, and laughing raucously. Linda stormed out of the bedroom, wearing her nightgown and earplugs. "This is illegal," she screamed. "I am calling the cops." "Go ahead," Dave yelled. "OP invited us. We are guests." She did call the cops. The same officers from before arrived. Officer Miller looked at me, then at the bikers, then at a terrified Linda. "Noise complaint," I smiled. "We're having a housewarming. Just a few friends. We'll keep it down." "These people are trespassing," Linda yelled. "Are they?" I asked Miller. "Ma'am, the homeowner invited them. Unless they're committing a crime, they can stay. Just like you were staying." The look on Linda's face was pure, unadulterated horror. She realized the loophole. The sword cut both ways. "But the smoke, the dogs," she stammered. "Civil matter," Miller said, suppressing a smirk. He knew exactly what I was doing. "Have a good night." As the cops left, Dave looked at Linda. "Hey, darlin'," he said, holding out a half-eaten chicken wing. "You look stressed. Want a wing? Brutus licked it, but it's still good." Linda gagged. She ran back to the room. I heard sobbing. I heard Bob yelling, "We can't stay here. These people are animals." "Where will we go?" Linda wailed. "We have no money." "The truck," Bob yelled. "I'd rather sleep in the truck than with those dogs." I stood in the hallway listening. Dave gave me a thumbs up and turned the volume up to Enter Sandman. It was working. The cockroaches began to scatter. Sunday morning broke with the smell of bacon and impending victory. Dave was in the kitchen, shirtless, frying 2 pounds of bacon for himself and the dogs. Princess was drooling a puddle onto the floor that was dangerously close to becoming a slip-and-fall hazard. I was sitting at the island, drinking coffee, watching the hallway. At 8 a.m., the door to the guest room, which was just an empty frame, opened. Linda walked out. She looked like she had aged 10 years in 3 days. Her hair was a bird's nest. Her eyes were bloodshot. She was wearing sunglasses indoors. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Dave. She walked straight to the front door, opened it, and walked out to the truck. A minute later, Bob appeared. He was dragging a suitcase. He looked defeated. "We're leaving," he muttered, not making eye contact. "Oh no," Dave said, spraying bacon grease everywhere. "But I was going to make pancakes. Blueberry." "Go to hell," Bob spat. The frenzy. For the next hour, it was a chaotic reverse migration. They moved faster than I had ever seen them move. They threw boxes into the back of the truck. They didn't pack neatly this time. They just shoved things in. I stood by the front door, leaning against the frame, watching them like a hawk. I wasn't there to help. I was there to audit. "Careful with that lamp," I said as Linda dragged a floor lamp out. "Wait, that's my lamp." She froze. "No, it's ours," she lied. "No, it's not. I bought that at IKEA 3 years ago. Put it down." "I need it," she screamed, her composure cracking. "We have nothing. You have everything. Let me have the damn lamp." "Put it down." She threw it on the ground, shattering the bulb, and stormed out. Then came the TV. Bob and Linda tried to lift the massive 65-inch TV they had brought with them. "Need a hand?" Dave asked, leaning in the doorway, eating a strip of bacon. "Don't touch our stuff," Bob yelled. They struggled to get it through the door. They scratched the frame. I didn't care. Paint is cheap. Freedom is priceless. The final confrontation. By 9:30 a.m., the guest room was empty. Well, not empty. It was filled with trash. Fast food wrappers, empty soda bottles, and a stain on the carpet that looked suspiciously like grape juice or wine. They stood by the truck. The engine was idling. I walked out to the driveway. Dave stood behind me, flanked by Brutus and Hannibal. "You know," Linda said, leaning out the window. She had regained some of her venom now that she was safe inside the vehicle. "You are a terrible human being, OP. We are family. We were down on our luck, and you treated us like animals. I treated you like family. I gave you a home. You treated me like a servant. You stole from me, you lied to me, and you tried to use the law to hold my house hostage." "You'll regret this," Bob shouted from the driver's seat. "One day you'll need help, and we won't be there." "That is the best promise you could ever make me," I said. "Don't expect a Christmas card," Linda yelled. "I don't. And Linda, what? If you ever set foot on this property again, Dave is going to release the hounds, for real this time." Dave let out a deep, menacing laugh and slapped Brutus on the side. The dog barked. Bob slammed on the gas. The truck peeled out of the driveway, trailer swerving, kicking up gravel. They sped down the street and disappeared around the corner. The cleanup. I didn't celebrate immediately. I turned to Dave. "Is the guy here?" "Parked around the block," Dave nodded. He whistled. A white van pulled up. It wasn't the police. It was a locksmith. A 24-hour emergency locksmith I'd booked yesterday. "Change everything," I told the locksmith. "Front door, back door, garage side door. Deadbolts and handles. I want high-security keys that can't be duplicated at a hardware store." While the locksmith worked, Dave and I walked through the house. The damage was real. The guest room carpet was ruined. I'd have to rip it out. The walls were scuffed. The kitchen was a grit pit. The smell of stale cigarettes hung in the curtains. But the silence was beautiful. "You okay, boss?" Dave asked, handing me a beer. It was 10 a.m. I took it. "I'm fantastic, Dave. Seriously, thank you." "Anytime. My boys enjoyed the vacation. They don't usually get to sleep on Persian rugs." "Keep the rug," I said. "It's covered in hair anyway. Consider it a bonus." The aftermath. It took me 2 weeks to deep clean the house. I hired professional cleaners to scrub every inch. I repainted the guest room. I replaced the carpet with halfwood. I hung the doors back on the hinges. I bought a new urn for Buster. A month later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from a lawyer. My heart stopped for a second. Had they actually found money to sue me? I opened it. It was a demand letter for illegal eviction and emotional distress. They were asking for $50,000. I called my own lawyer. He laughed for 5 minutes straight. He said, "Send me the police report number from the noise complaint and the text messages they admitted they sold their house. I'll draft a response that will make their lawyer drop them faster than a hot potato." I never heard from the lawyer again. Epilogue, 6 months later. I heard from my mom, who had stayed out of this wisely, that Linda and Bob are living in a trailer park 2 towns over. Bob got a job as a night watchman. Linda is trying to sell handmade jewelry on Etsy. They tell everyone who will listen that their ungrateful nephew threw them out on the street in the middle of winter. It was August. I don't care. My house is silent. My servers are humming. My internet is fast. I adopted a dog. Not a Mastiff, too much drool, but a shelter mix named Karma. Sometimes when I'm sitting in my living room eating a perfectly cooked medium rare steak, I look at the front door. It's locked, and it stays locked.